They emerged from the harsh Syrian desert like a sandstorm, nomadic tribes with nothing but their herds, tents, and an unquenchable ambition. The settled peoples of Mesopotamia called them Amuru, Westerners, and viewed them with contempt and fear. The Amuru know no houses. Ancient texts tell us they know no cities. Yet within a few generations, these desert wanderers would conquer the greatest cities of the ancient world, establish powerful dynasties, and transform the political landscape of the entire Middle East. Their most famous son would create one of history's first great legal codes. Their legacy would echo through biblical texts for millennia. Welcome to Echoes of the East. I'm your guide through history's forgotten chapters. Today, we explore the extraordinary story of the Amorites, the nomadic outsiders who became kings, the desert people who mastered the art of empire, and the tribal warriors who forever changed the course of Syrian and Mesopotamian civilization. Origins in the Syrian desert. Around 2200 BCE, the ancient Near East experienced a severe climate change, a prolonged drought that devastated agricultural communities. As city-states weakened, semi-nomadic peoples from the Syrian desert began moving into more fertile regions. These were the Amorites. Archaeological evidence shows they weren't simply primitive nomads, as often portrayed in Mesopotamian propaganda. The Amorites had developed a sophisticated pastoral economy, raising sheep and goats, and engaging in seasonal trade with settled communities. They organized themselves into tribal confederations led by powerful sheiks, with complex social hierarchies and religious practices centered around ancestral deities. What made the Amorites different from previous nomadic groups was their remarkable adaptability. Rather than simply raiding civilized areas, they began a process of gradual integration, first as mercenaries, then as settlers in rural areas, and finally as political players within urban centers. From outsiders to insiders. By 2000 BCE, Amorite chiefs had established themselves in key positions throughout Syria and Mesopotamia. In cities like Mari, Aleppo, and Katna, they either seized power directly or married into existing royal families. Their tribal connections gave them military advantages, while their willingness to adopt urban culture allowed them to legitimize their rule. The Amorite takeover wasn't always violent. In many cases, they revitalized declining cities with fresh leadership and new trade connections. They maintained their tribal networks while embracing the trappings of urban civilization, building palaces, patronizing the arts, and adopting the cuneiform writing system to record their achievements. The Mari archives reveal how Amorite kings masterfully balanced their dual identities. In letters, King Zimri-Lim of Mari proudly calls himself King of Mari in the land of the Amorites. He maintained his tribal authority by regularly visiting his nomadic kinsmen, participating in traditional ceremonies, and mediating disputes among desert clans. Yet he also ruled from a magnificent palace, employed Mesopotamian scribes, and conducted sophisticated diplomacy with other great powers. The Amorite Golden Age in Syria. In Syria, the Amorite period, roughly 2000 to 1600 BCE, represented a golden age of prosperity and cultural development. Three major Amorite kingdoms emerged. Yamhad, centered on Aleppo, controlled northern Syria and became the dominant power in the region. Its kings built massive fortifications and temples, including the famous Temple of the Storm God, whose foundations remain visible today beneath Aleppo's medieval citadel. Yamhad's influence extended into Anatolia, where it checked the expansion of the rising Hittite Empire. Katna, in central Syria, controlled key trade routes connecting Mesopotamia with the Mediterranean. Archaeological excavations have revealed a spectacular royal palace with innovative architectural features, including an underground royal tomb, where the remains of lavish funerary offerings were discovered. Katna's kings accumulated enormous wealth through trade, particularly in purple dye, cedar wood, and copper. Mari on the Euphrates River served as a crucial link between Syria and southern Mesopotamia. Under King Zimri-Lim, Mari reached its zenith. His palace was one of the wonders of the ancient world. 300 rooms spread across 5 acres, with sophisticated plumbing, colorful murals, and a grand throne room designed to awe visitors. The 25,000 tablets discovered there provide an unparalleled window into Amorite governance, diplomacy, and daily life. Hammurabi and the Amorite conquest of Babylon. While Amorite kingdoms flourished in Syria, Another branch of Amorites had established themselves further south in Babylon, then a minor city in southern Mesopotamia. In 1792 BCE, a ruler named Hammurabi ascended the Babylonian throne. Through military conquest, shrewd diplomacy, and administrative genius, he would transform Babylon into the region's dominant power. Hammurabi's famous law code, one of the world's oldest preserved legal texts, reveals the Amorite talent for synthesizing different traditions. The code combined traditional Mesopotamian legal principles with Amorite tribal customs, creating a comprehensive system that addressed everything from commerce to family law. Its prologue portrays Hammurabi as a shepherd chosen by the gods to bring about the rule of righteousness in the land. After consolidating power in southern Mesopotamia, Hammurabi turned his attention northward. In a series of campaigns, he conquered the Amorite kingdoms of Syria one by one. In 1761 BCE, he betrayed his former ally Zimrilim and captured Mari, destroying the city so thoroughly that it never recovered its former glory. Amorite religion and culture. The Amorites brought distinctive religious elements to the regions they conquered. Their chief deity was Amuru, a god associated with mountains and storms. They also venerated ancestral spirits and practiced divination through various means, including examining the livers of sacrificed animals. As they settled in urban areas, the Amorites adopted many local gods while maintaining their own traditions. This religious syncretism is evident in personal names. Many Amorite kings had names invoking both traditional Mesopotamian deities and distinctly Amorite gods. Linguistically, the Amorites spoke a Semitic language related to later Aramaic and Hebrew. Their language contributed many new words to the region's vocabulary, particularly terms related to tribal organization, pastoral activities, and certain religious concepts. Some scholars believe the Amorite language forms an important link in the development of Northwest Semitic languages that would later include Hebrew and Phoenician, the biblical Amorites. The Amorites left such an impression on the ancient Near East that they feature prominently in biblical texts, where they're portrayed as one of the major peoples inhabiting Canaan before the Israelite conquest. The biblical portrayal is complex, sometimes depicting them as formidable enemies with cities fortified up the sky, other times as moral cautionary tales. Some scholars suggest that certain biblical patriarchal stories reflect memories of Amorite cultural practices. The emphasis on pastoral lifestyles, tribal organization, and covenant relationships all have parallels in what we know about Amorite society from archaeological evidence. The end of Amorite dominance. The Amorite Golden Age in Syria came to a violent end around 1595 BC, when another group of outsiders, the Hittites from Anatolia, launched a devastating raid that reached as far as Babylon. This was followed by the rise of the mysterious Mitanni kingdom in northern Syria and the expansion of Egyptian influence from the south. By 1400 BCE, the distinct Amorite political identity had largely disappeared, as they had been absorbed into the broader cultural landscape of the Near East. However, their cultural and genetic legacy continued through the populations they had become part of. The story of the Amorites offers a powerful lesson about the nature of civilization itself. These once marginalized nomads transformed themselves into sophisticated rulers not by rejecting urban culture, but by adapting it and infusing it with their own strengths, their tribal connections, their mobility, their fresh perspectives. In many ways, the Amorite story challenges our tendency to see history as a simple march from primitive nomadism to advanced urban life. The Amorites show us that the relationship between desert and city was far more complex and symbiotic. The desert wasn't just a threat to civilization. It was also a source of renewal, bringing fresh leadership and new ideas when established systems had grown stagnant. As we look at Syria's ancient past, we see this pattern repeating throughout history. Waves of newcomers who initially appear as outsiders before becoming central to the region's cultural development. The boundaries between civilized and uncivilized were never as clear as ancient propagandists wanted us to believe. The Amorite legacy reminds us that history's most transformative changes often come not from the center, but from the margins, from people who can bridge different worlds and create something new from the synthesis. If you've enjoyed this exploration of the Amorite Revolution, be sure to subscribe to Echoes of the East for more journeys through forgotten chapters of Middle Eastern history. Leave a comment below with your thoughts or questions about the Amorites. Until next time, I'm your host, and this has been Echoes of the East.